So you found the home, your offer has been accepted, and now what do you do next? This is where things get real and fast. You've usually got about 30 days from the time your contract was accepted to closing to get everything in between done. And that everything, that is making your deposits, inspections, surveys, appraisals, title commitments, final walkthrough, settlement statement review, closing disclosures, and of course, that day of closing. Now I know that this is a lot to cover and every single one of those has a deadline that has to be met. But don't worry, I have got you covered. I'm going to walk you through the entire process step by step to make sure you don't miss anything. So let's jump in. The first step is you are going to send your escrow deposit. Now this is different than your down payment. The down payment is something that's going to be completely due by closing time. Your escrow deposit is your good faith deposit that tells the seller, hey, I'm really serious about your property and purchasing it and moving forward. You've already negotiated what this amount is and it's on the first page of your contract. There's going to be a section in there that's going to say escrow office, and it should have the name of the office, the address, hopefully an email address, and a phone number. That is who you are going to contact and ask them what are their escrow deposit requirements. Some will allow you to drop off a check, some will allow you to mail a check. Some of them will take wire transfers or cashier's checks. Whatever the title company's requirements are going to be what you need to comply with. Also on there, it's going to state when that deposit is due. It's usually due within like 3 business days or 5 business days. That doesn't count weekends and holidays. So you're going to want to read that section at the top, find out where and who you need to get a hold of, and when the deadline for making that deposit is due. Now, if you decide to overnight a check or cashier's funds, of course there's going to be an extra cost for that. And if you decide to do a wire transfer, check into the fees for that as well. Your bank may have a charge for doing a wire transfer, some don't, and the title office may or may not have a charge for receiving one. Most don't, but that doesn't mean that everyone's rules are the same, so make sure you check into that. Now here's a pro tip for you. Always, always, always check any email that you have received. You should never get wiring instructions from anyone but the title office, because a lot of times companies will spoof that information and then they will end up stealing your money. So if you get an email, oftentimes it will state that you need to contact the title office for some additional numbers to actually initiate the transfer. And that is your protection. I know it sounds like a pain that you've got to be in the bank and then you've got to call them and get this secret code, but it's literally there for your protection. Most title offices never change banks. They never ask you to say, hey, well, we're going to go over here, so you need to move your money. That doesn't happen. When you get something like that, don't respond to the email or use the phone number in the email. Instead, either go to the contract or look them up online and get that phone number and then call them to verify that the information that you've received in the email is legitimate, because usually once the money's gone, the money's gone. So whatever happens, please, please, please be very, very careful about sending or wiring money to a title office. And remember, it shouldn't come from anybody else but the title office, and they usually never change accounts on you. Step 2 is the lender is going to get a copy of your executed contract. When they get this, it's going to allow them to lock in your interest rate and they're going to start the underwriting process. Most people have already done a good deal of this, but some people are literally just starting from scratch. And so you want to make sure that if the agent has not given your contract to the lender, you want to get that to the lender as soon as possible. And then everything moves very quickly with your lender from there. They're going to ask you for documents. I know, the ones you've already sent them, you're going to send them again. And many times it's legitimate why they need to do that. So let's say they've asked for your bank statements, but before closing, you may receive 1 or 2 or more bank statements, and they will need to make sure that they're going to have every single updated bank statement. They need to verify things like your employer, your bank accounts, that you make as much money as you say you make, that your debts are exactly what you say they are, that you owe what you say that you owe and no more, and that if you've received money, where is that money coming from? Is it legitimate or is it someplace that you shouldn't be getting money from? Which I've never really had that, but they're going to check for that anyway. They're going to ask you to verify your identity, and women or men, if you've ever changed your name, they're going to need for you to discuss why you've changed it and verify what they call all the other aliases that you may have ever had. Now, as you're going through the process, this is not the time to change jobs. This is not the time to accept less hours at work. This is not when you want to buy a house, a car, a boat, any other large ticket item. Now, for many people, this is no big deal. They can spend money like it's water, and I'm very, very happy for them. But most of the people out there buying a new car or buying $15,000 worth of furniture to go into your house can throw off your numbers and make it so that you cannot qualify. So don't let that be you. It's better to be on the cautious side and not spend any money until after you've closed to make sure that there's going to be no hiccups getting to the closing table. Oh, pro tip, if you are single, this is not the time to get married. Unless you've already notified everybody that your wedding is happening between when you made the contract and closing, it can throw off numbers. And personal story, we're sitting at the closing table, everything was great. The standard question is, are you still single or are you still married? And they said, well, you know what, does it matter? We got married over the weekend. Our family was in town. We thought, we've got everybody here. Let's just go ahead and get married. Never thought anything of it. I have never seen the lender and the attorney sweating so bad because they had to kind of quickly redo some papers. The lender had to look at some numbers and make sure that it didn't throw off any numbers. Everything ended up being fine, but I will tell you it was very stressful for about 2 hours while they were negotiating all of that information. So whatever your status is, make sure everybody knows. Try not to change it right before closing so there won't be any delays. Step number 3, you want to set up your inspections. In the contract, you have what is a due diligence period, or also known as an inspection period. Some contracts it's 10 days, other days it's 15 days, but it is negotiable. If you have a property that's got more things that need to be inspected, you may need to ask for more days. But if you are in a competitive situation and they say, well, we want you to shorten the inspection period so that you can make a decision to stay or go in this contract, they may ask you to shorten those days. Whatever it may be, that is your deadline. So you want to make sure that you get your inspections scheduled as soon as possible. And you need that because let's say you have a 10-day inspection period and you wait till day 9. The inspector is not able to get your report to you until after the period has passed. That's going to be a very, very big problem. So you want to make sure the sooner you get it done, let's say something comes up on that report and you're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I think I'm either going to want a second opinion or I'm going to want to get a quote for that. So an example I have here is I have a buyer. We found out that the water heater was older. Not bad, but older. And she was concerned about, well, I don't want to move in and put my new floors in and then have the water heater go out. So let's go ahead and get a quote for getting a new water heater. And they did ask the seller to help them cover the cost of the new water heater. It was functioning, but it was older. It doesn't hurt to ask. And so the seller, of course, said, no, it's working, but that's okay. They were able to make a decision on if they wanted to go forward, and they knew what the cost was going to be, and they wouldn't have been able to do that if they didn't get their inspections ordered very, very quickly. Another thing with inspections is it's not just a home inspection. Some loans will require that you either do a wood destroying organism inspection. Other loans, if there's a well and or a septic on the property, will also ask for those inspections to be done as well. Other loans, if you've got a manufactured home, may want what they have like an engineering report on the structural tie downs on there. So you start getting into more and more inspections that may be required by your lender. If you've got a pool, you personally may want to have an inspection done just to make sure that there are no leaks in the pool. So having them done as quickly as possible. Yes, they cost money. Yes, they are extra, but having that peace of mind that you didn't close on a house, something breaks, and then you've got a $5,000 or $50,000 bill because you didn't want to spend a few hundred or a few $1,000s. So make sure you've got enough time to order all the inspections that you want to have done, get second opinions if you like to do so, and if you want to get quotes for replacement or repair and include that in your negotiations, you can do so. Now, during this same period of time, step number 4, I highly recommend you also get your insurance quotes and you look at the utilities. People are always surprised when they find out, hey, I'm buying this house, I know what to expect on my other expenses, and then they move in and they didn't know that the utility bill was like $600 or $1,000 a month. You can simply find that out by contacting the utility provider, giving them the address, letting them know that you're looking to buy a new home or buy this home, and then they usually will give you a year or 2 years of history of the utility bills. And that is great because it will tell you what it costs in the high season, what the low season is. Many of them will split out the power versus the water so that you know what your true expenses are. And then you can decide if they're reasonable or they may be a lot more than you were expecting, and this is your opportunity to make a decision whether to move forward or to back out. Same thing goes with your insurance. Everyone thinks, oh, I can get insurance, it's not going to be an issue. Most likely you can, but it may not be at the premium that you want. You may have budgeted $1,600 a year for insurance. It could end up being $3,000. That way you can find out, can you get a better price from somebody else? If you can find insurance at all, or is this what the going rate's gonna be? And that's gonna throw off your numbers. Even if you could afford that premium each year, you may not want to, or if you're very close on the line of your debt to income ratio, it could make it that your lender may not move forward with the loan. So during this due diligence and inspection period, you can inspect the utility costs and you can inspect the insurance costs. So that way, if you decide in your inspection period that you do not want to move forward, you've got a reasonable out and you can get your escrow back. In step 5, here is where we do the negotiations. When you get all of this information, you can decide going forward, negotiating, or pulling out. Inside of this, you're also going to need to order your appraisal, which your lender will do usually after the inspection has been done. And if the seller does not have a survey, you will need to order a survey as well. Now, many times the seller may have a survey that the title company will accept, but they may not accept it. Let's say if after the survey was done, a fence was put on the property, they may say you're going to need to get a new survey. So you will negotiate during this time. Let's say the house doesn't appraise. You've offered $500,000 for the house. If the appraisal comes in at $500,000 or more, you are great, no issue. If the appraisal comes in at, let's say, $495,000, you're $5,000 short. You can either, one, just bring that $5,000 to the table and say, you know what, I got a steal of a deal. I'm totally fine anyway. I am moving forward. That cost will be in addition to all the other costs that you already knew about. It's not going to be factored into your monthly payments because the bank is only going to lend on what the appraisal amount is. So plan to bring that entire difference to the closing table. The other thing you can do is you can negotiate with the seller and ask them to reduce the contract price down to the appraisal price. Some sellers do so. Other sellers say, you know what, let's split the difference. Now that does not mean 50-50. Many sellers and buyers will do that, but the seller may say, well, you know what, I'll give you $1,000, you've got to come up with the difference. It can be whatever you want it to be as long as you're in agreement. And if you are not in agreement and you do not have or do not want to bring the difference to the table, this is your opportunity to walk away. So you want to make sure that you get your negotiations done during this time. It's usually either inside of the inspection period or inside of the loan approval period. But you want to make sure you know what your deadline is and you never, never, never miss your deadline. Now, as we're getting closer to the closing date, if you are going to be in town and attending the closing, that is great. If you are not going to be able to be in town, let's say that you are moving to the area or you've already got a family trip or something planned during that time, perfectly okay. You just need to let the title office, your real estate agent, and the lender know that you will not actually be at closing, and they will arrange for you to do what we call a mail away. Now, some offices have a mobile notary that will come to your property or you will meet them someplace. Some will say go to a local bank or a notary in your area. Other ones are equipped to do like Zoom notary, and they'll say, okay, we're gonna watch you sign it and then that's gonna be fine. Everybody does something different. They're all okay. Just make sure that you know what the title office's policy is that you are working with and that you let them know that that's gonna be what you need. You also wanna plan a little bit more time because the documents have to be mailed back in time to the title office and the lender. So it can't be like you signed everything on one day and then the documents still have to be mailed back 3 days later and you're expecting a key on that day. No, you're going to get the key when everything has been received, and that includes the mail away package as well, and also the funding has occurred, like they've dispersed the funds for the property. Then you get your key. Now, step 7 is after you've sent all of that paperwork to the title office and to your lender over and over and over again, they are going to be working in the final underwriting stages, and they're going to be working to get you a closing disclosure and a settlement statement. During this time, they are going to run your credit one more time. They're going to make sure that you are still employed, that the amount of money that you had to start with is the same amount that you've had when you are going to closing. Nothing crazy has happened and nothing has changed. Now you're going to be asked to review and sign the closing disclosure, which needs to be done at least 3 business days before closing. You will also be asked to review the settlement statement. This is your chance to make sure that all the numbers and all the figures that you've been given are completely accurate, and request any changes or explanations that you may need. Now, in this last week, we're getting ready for closing. You are going to want to make sure that your utilities have been transferred to your name to start on the day of closing, because day of closing belongs to you, and this is not when you want to find out that you forgot to transfer the power and you have no AC, or you're going to be working in the dark over the entire weekend. I highly recommend this is also when you arrange for like a cleaning company to come by. I know everyone says, well, I clean the house, but do we really trust anybody now after COVID? And their idea of clean and your idea of clean, they're completely different. And if there is an issue with the cleaning of the house, you can call the company that you hired to come back out there and take care of something that they might have missed. Now, pro tip for you, I always try to make sure I close on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, making sure it's not a holiday. A lot of times people will try to set closing for Friday. Something will happen, it will delay closing, and that means Monday. So now you've lost 3 days, Saturday and Sunday, no one's working, before you're going to get to the closing table. And if you've got stuff in storage or you're trying to do a simultaneous close, that's a lot of time. So if you get it done on Thursday and there's an issue, then you can get it taken care of on Friday and you've only missed a day. Close to the very last step will be the lender conditions. They're going to make sure that everything is clear. They've got all of the documents. You've looked at the settlement statement. There are absolutely no issues, and you're going to hear these 3 beautiful words, and it is called clear to close. Most wonderful words I've ever heard. So that's going to be what you're looking for. Once we get that, we're going to want to schedule your final walkthrough on the day of closing, the morning of closing. So if you schedule closing to be like at 10 or 11, we want to do the walkthrough at like 8 or 9, depending where the property is versus the closing office. And the reason for that is that we want to see the property the very last time before you walk into closing, because things happen overnight. I have heard horror stories where pipes have burst overnight, and if we hadn't gone in the morning, we wouldn't have known. I've got a personal situation where a tree limb fell on the shed and crushed it because a storm had come through. We went by there just to take a look at it, found out that that was an issue. Wasn't the seller's fault, but it wasn't the buyer's either, and the seller and buyer agreed on a number to make everybody happy and still do the closing. So you want to schedule that final walkthrough for the morning of your day of closing. And also, remember, this is a final walkthrough. It's not a full-on inspection. They usually take about 15 minutes. What you're looking to do is verify that everything inside the contract that's supposed to be there is there. Like if they said they were going to leave the washer and dryer or a fridge in the garage and in the house, that they're there. And that the house is in the same or better condition than the day that you made the offer. If there's anything that does come up, it can be taken care of before closing, because once you've signed the documents and you've received your keys, there's nothing to be done. It is your property, good and bad. So we want to do the final walkthrough the morning of closing. Now it's closing time. We're going to head over to the closing table. You will need yourself, and if you haven't already wired the money, which I hope you have, you will wire the money before closing, and you will need to bring either your driver's license or your passport. You're going to sign what feels like a mountain of paperwork, and it's going to be never ending, but I promise you, you will get to the bottom of all that paperwork. Now, if all of this is overwhelming, please save the video so you can go through it again, or don't feel like you have to go it alone. If you're starting the buying process and you don't have anybody, I would be happy to talk to you and I'd be happy to help. Make sure that you scan the QR code or click in the link in the description below and let's set up a time to talk. There is no pressure, just conversation. Love to hear from you if you have any questions. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.